Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrand. Joining me over there, back in New York City, my man Dan Rubenstein, sir. How are you?
I am fantastic, Ty. I am ready to talk about America's division.
America's division.
Oh, beautiful Spain. Yeah, I'm ready. The Pac-12 North. It's time.
Pac-12 North. We got a little Mountain West Mountain.
Yep.
Action on today's show. We should point out that we are recording this show on Wednesday, but it is being posted on Sunday the 12th, which means that people will be listening to this show a day after our live show in Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So perhaps we should offer some qualifiers here just to account for anything wacky that might transpire on Saturday evening at the live show.
Ty, I can't believe you beat up my family.
Yeah.
It's uncalled for.
Can you believe that Adam Amin mooned the crowd? It was uncalled for, but still provocative.
He said he was going to, Ty, and people didn't trust him. I can't believe you ate that much chicken, Ty. I cannot believe you put away that much chicken. Hashtag tenders with Ty.
Thank you to everyone that came out. We'll be releasing that show here shortly.
I really hope the show happens, Ty. Really, really do.
It is only Wednesday. You never know. Well, thank you for coming on back. This is actually our final preview show. We've gone through all the Power 5 divisions. We've talked about all of the Group of 5 conferences at this point. We've saved perhaps the best two for last in talking about the Pac-12 North and the Mountain West Mountain Division. It is a division that is near and dear to your heart, Dan, because of your Oregon allegiance. I know when we talked about the Pac-12 South, you're sort of like an encyclopedia for all things Pac-12. So I do tend to lean on you a little bit more when we talk about all things Pac-12, especially Pac-12 North. As you look at this conference, how's your heart?
First of all, Ty just tried to trick me and tried to trick all of you because we're going to get to the Conference USA Western Division. On a Q&A show before the season starts or something. We promise we will.
Okay.
We're not leaving you out North Texas or UAB.
My bad. My
UTSA. Bad. It's okay. But the bigger question, Ty, how do I feel about the Pac-12 North? Really excited.
Yeah.
I am so pumped, and I'm going to tell you why. I think Oregon State's going to win more than one game. You heard it here. I think they're going to win more than one game. I don't think they're going to win their opener at Ohio State, but I think they're going to win more than one. No, I'm excited for this conference, or this division, excuse me. Quarterback play should be very, very good. Jake Browning, Justin Herbert, KJ Costello. I know you're probably in on the Bauer Hour just so you can say Bauer Hour.
All in
Ross
on the
Bowers.
Bauer Hour. Yeah.
I anticipate Wazoo's quarterback situation, whether or not it's Gardner Minshew or a younger player, being at least decent given Mike Leach's track record with quarterbacks. But I'm excited because of the talent level. I'm excited because of offenses. I'm excited about returning familiarity. And I think it will be an improved division from where it was last year, mostly because of Cal and Oregon.
I agree. And that gets me to the reasons that I care. Because you've got an old trusty like Washington at this point, which you sort of know what you're going to get. Especially with 17 guys back from last year's team and Chris Peterson. You just know what you're going to get. Stanford, I think you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to get. Not so much from the quarterback position, which was a bit up and down last year, but did seem to settle in with KJ Costello towards the latter half of the year. But mainly because we got Bryce Love, who had 2,100 yards a year ago. And also he's got a pretty experienced line in front of him, which we'll talk about. But 4 guys back in total. You know what you're going to get from Stanford. Oregon and Cal are the X factors, and that's why I care. Because I don't know which way Oregon's headed. I want you to tell us. And Cal, I think, could be pretty damn plucky. I care about plucky teams.
I know
Cal's got a lot of pluckiness in him this year.
You want to start with Washington?
I do want to start with Washington.
Washington?
Washington went 10-2 a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 17 starters back, as I mentioned, 8 on offense, 9 on defense. Some big losses to account for, right? Vita Vea.
Certainly. Literally big loss, yeah.
Chief among them, right?
Dante Pettis, enormous.
Dante Pettis, sure.
Yeah.
But Dan, I want to start with something a little bit more important to our universe.
Oh, I'm ready for this.
Can we talk about the quarterback position at Washington? Who is their starting quarterback, by the way, for those wondering at home, playing the home game?
Jake Browning?
I believe it'd be Jake Browning coming back for his senior season. His backup is also a redshirt freshman by the name of Jake. The third stringer is a freshman by the name of Jacob Sermon, I believe. There's also a Jacob by the name of Eason, who is transferring over from Georgia, originally from the state of Washington, but he's going to be sitting out this year. Dan, there are 4 Jakes on the depth chart here in some capacity.
We have what? A history of Jake Locker?
Yeah.
Jake Heaps is from the state. Jake Busey is one of our fine cinematic additions. No, there's a lot of Jakes. There's a lot of Jacobs. But I think they have another freshman named Colson.
Is his middle name Jake?
It has to be. Well, his last name is Yankoff, which is
okay.
Which is a lot. It's a lot.
Right.
There's a lot of Jake on this QB room, and we spent like 45 minutes going back and forth on GChat coming up with names for the Jake situation. It's not good for anybody to go through these.
I think 2018 is probably the year that we stop calling them Washington and start calling them Jake Forrest.
It's pretty good. Was that mine or yours?
I think that was mine, actually.
Okay. I'm trying to find the best one. Jakeotomy I thought was pretty good.
Yep.
Study of Jakes, like tracheotomy.
The Great Jakes was another one.
Yo, Jake It and Afraid, not my favorite. Jake Me Up When You Go. Ooh, for Pete's Jake, because of Chris Peterson.
Right. Jake Me Up When September Ends, another one.
My actual good one was Jake Shack, because like that's what you could call the quarterback room.
I do like Jake Shack. That's not bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Jake
Forrest does have the college and the forestry, the outdoors element of the Pacific Northwest.
So, okay, schedule's great.
That was very important. Deep dive. Sorry.
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though, I think the schedule sets up well. They've got the neutral siter against Auburn, which we talked about on the Wednesday show when we previewed the SEC West. That game's in Atlanta on week 1. Beyond that, they're at Utah on September 15th. They're at Oregon on October 13th. Stanford's at home. They get ASU, UCLA, and Colorado from the South. The one thing that I will throw out there, and I'll even play...
What's digging at you?
One of my favorite sounds.
Whoa.
They are at Cal the week before Stanford.
That's tasty.
That is a potential trap game. But otherwise, Dan, I think barring injury, you got Jake Browning overtaking Cody Pickett as the all-time leading passer in Husky history. You've got Myles Gaskin, who is back for like his 18th year, only 51 yards away from overtaking Napoleon Kaufman on the all-time leading rusher list in Husky history. I'm going to reiterate what I said, though, on the Pivotal People episode. The offense looks great. The defense looks great. I think Chico McClatcher is the guy to watch. He's not a big dude, but he's a game breaker. That's what Washington needs at the wide receiver position.
And he's back.
He
missed all of last year. Yeah.
He was hurt. I think Chico McClatcher could bring an element to this offense that it was really in need of and still is in need of entering 2018. I feel real good about Washington. They're a playoff caliber team. They probably win the North. I think 11-1. Give me 11-1.
How will you feel
Washington.
about them if they lose comfortably to Auburn to start the season?
Comfortably?
If they lose 27-16.
Oh, man.
And it's not like 20-16 and they get a last-second touchdown. It's, it's 27-9 and Washington scores a garbage point.
I think I will be stunned by that.
Okay, but if that happens, that's not a crazy thing to think about.
No, it's not crazy.
How good Auburn will also be.
Will that affect how I feel? Marginally.
I think Washington, it's not must win, but Washington needs to look really good. Washington can't lose like they lost to Penn State, where they look pretty good on offense and move the ball a ton, but keep giving up key conversions and stuff like that and are outclassed. I like Washington a whole bunch, and it has almost nothing to do with their offense, even though their line is enormous and should be really good, anchored by Trey Adams, who comes back after getting hurt near the end of last season. Myles Gaskin's great. The name I really like is Salvon Ahmed, whatever. I don't know how you perfectly pronounce everything there, but he is versatile and excellent, an all-purpose type player. Their secondary is absurd. I'm concerned about linebacker. I'm not super concerned about them up front on defense. Their secondary, Miles Bryant, Austin Joyner, Taylor Rapp, Byron Murphy is like the third or fourth corner there. They are in an excellent position given what the Pac-12 will throw at this Washington team schedule-wise and quarterback-wise. So this is who Washington has to face quarterback-wise of the Power 5 teams on their schedule. Jarrett Stidham, Tyler Huntley, Manny Wilkins, whoever is starting, probably Dorian Robinson, Thompson Robinson, I swear I'll get it right, at UCLA, Chip Kelly offense. Should be okay, at least. Justin Herbert in Eugene, the Bauer Hour, who you're high on, KJ Costello, who I think will have an improved year, and they'll probably slaughter Washington State. But that's a good position to be in against that quarterback lineup because there are some guys on that schedule that can wing it.
I saw that Washington was having trouble against its own defense in some of the early training camp reports.
You know what? I'm a little bit worried about Washington's offense.
Why?
I'm still worried, and I know Chico McClatcher is good, and I know you like him, and Hunter Bryant is a very good tight end, is big. I'm worried that Jake Browning has peaked at good, and in order for this team to make the playoff, I think he needs to get to excellent. And it's amazing that he's good. It's amazing that Washington has a good quarterback after going so long with Keith Price had those couple quarters where everything seemed to work out. It's been a long time since they've had a good quarterback. And I think people are going to key on, like the better teams on Washington's schedule did last year, they're going to key on making Browning beat them, not just through the air, but downfield. And I'm not sure without Pettis, now the second year without John Ross, I'm not sure within the context of Washington making the playoff, they have that guy.
Yeah.
But that defense means Washington has scored 20 points a game and they'll be fine.
Yep.
So I think Washington minimum was winning 10.
I agree. Let's move on. Let's go to Stanford. The Cardinal went 9-3 a year ago. 15 guys back, including Bryce Love, I mentioned at the top of the show. 2,100 yards, 18 touchdowns. He is most likely your Heisman frontrunner at this point. I mentioned 4 guys back along the line. It is a gigantic line, Dan. 2 guys on that line are 6'7".
Not bad.
3 of them were honorable mention for Pac-12 Team of the Year. 1 of them was a first team All Pac-12er. This is really the guts of the team. It's always the guts of the team, but ever more the case this season. Very formidable on offense, especially if KJ Costello can continue improving. He's got veteran receivers. He himself is a lot more of a dual threat guy. The offense, I think, is going to be really good. Depending how good Costello is, depending how they use him, stylistically, this could be a more interesting offense too. So I am genuinely excited about what they do on that side of the football.
We need to just take a second and just admire the fact that Bryce Love is the single most dangerous player with the ball in his hands in college football.
Absolutely.
You sort of glossed over that fact, not intentionally. I think more because we've just gotten accustomed to Bryce Love being Mr. Dangerous. But Stanford has 2 straight running backs that are just absurd, and you have to hold your breath. And that is what, you feel as a defense, as somebody rooting for a defense, and this is a situation we've both found ourselves in. Anytime he touches the ball and he's tackled for a 7-yard gain, you're like, oh, thank God.
His average was 8.1.
Oh my God. He only just torched us for 14 yards. Oh, praise be. So that is Bryce Love. That is what he represents. That is who he is. I am concerned similarly about Stanford stretching teams down the field, concerned about conservatism on offense and not taking shots and punting on the other team's 43. Those are things that annoy me and will in perpetuity about Stanford, and they're just going to keep winning 9 or 10 games a year, despite any of my stupid concerns. Defensively, a lot of new names and faces, both on the line and in the secondary. That has me a little worried. The linebacking core should be pretty good, but like you could just, if Stanford's schedule,
Brutal.
they have the worst September in the country. They have a long September.
Yeah, I mean it's up there with who was it that had Clemson, Alabama, and South
Texas
Carolina?
A&M. Yeah,
in the first month of the year.
Yeah, this is San Diego State, which is probably one of the 4 best group of 5 teams. USC, the UC Davis Aggies. No, but they're then after, so they have San Diego State, USC, and then after UC Davis, no bye weeks in here, mind you, at Oregon, at Notre Dame.
It's tough.
That could be potentially 4 top 33 defenses in September.
Yeah.
So,
still,
and then they play Utah.
Yeah,
who should be pretty good.
Still, with all that,
yeah,
I look at the Stanford team and I say, well, if things break their way, they're a dark horse for the playoff.
Oh,
dark horse.
That's my turf, Ty.
I know. Dark horse for the playoff.
Stanford.
And maybe a 10-2 possible contender for the Pac-12.
There's any use of the P word to me means you have at least a very good quarterback and at least a very good defense. That is my bottom line bar. And I don't see that with Stanford. I see another 9 or 10 win year.
10-2.
Probably 8-4, 9-3. If they go 8-4, they'll win their bowl game and go 9-4.
All right. Let's go to Oregon, Dan.
Yeah.
This is the point in our preseason shows where we're previewing
you go get a
teams.
Snack right now?
Or I could go get a snack, maybe go out, get a fresh bottle of water or something. But Oregon 7-5, a new coach, sort of. Mario Cristobal was their offensive coordinator a year ago. Willie Taggart leaves to go to Florida State. Lay it on me here, Dan. Lay it on me. How are we feeling about Oregon in 2018?
Their schedule is such, and I've said this multiple times, that they could have a better record than what they actually represent on the field. They have absolutely nobody early in the non-conference. I believe it's Bowling Green to open the season.
We've got Bowling Green, we've got Portland State, and we've got San Jose State in the non-conference slate.
So Portland State and San Jose State have been awful. You can get into any of these games that are all in Autzen for under $10 right now. So that's pretty good. If you're looking for a steal, I'm not going to advertise the website, but you can get in pretty cheap to those games. So Oregon's going to go 3-0, and they have Stanford, and they go to Cal to round out September. They do all of this with what we believe to be a very good quarterback who has not had a very good game against a very good team, both because of injury and performance. So there's still that. He will be playing behind a line that has a ton of experience, but loses its best player, but is recruited there very well and should rotate in some young players who are promising. Crazy undisciplined. Oregon needs to stop shooting itself in the foot with penalties. Justin Herbert will be handing the ball off to promising running backs, but nobody that scares you like Royce Freeman or Kenyon Barner, LaMichael James, LeGarrette Blount, that level, at least to our knowledge. Could be CJ Verdell, could be Tony Brooks James, who's been around forever. Receiver, they're solid there. They get a transfer into Tabari Hines. Tight end, they're solid. Again, no game breakers like Darren Carrington was. At least that jumps out in mid-August. Defensively, they should be very good, especially up front. Troy Dye is one of the best, probably 2 or 3 linebackers in the conference. Up front, Jordan Scott was a freshman All-American nose tackle. Next to him, Jalen Jelks is going to be really good. The depth isn't there, and you can say that about all 3 levels of their defense. There's talent, depth questions. So if they are healthy on defense, they should have a top 30 defense, top 25 defense in the country. Because of the schedule. They miss USC. They get Washington at home after a bye. They get Stanford at home. They get UCLA at home. They travel to Utah, which is always tricky for everybody. And they host Arizona State. the other trappiness is 2 Washington State, not terribly worried about Wazoo this year. 2 Arizona, which is always just danger in the desert. So this, to me, I have a sense of like a 9-3 type year for Oregon.
I've got 9 or 10 wins here.
Yeah, it's a very good year to have a good defense and a good quarterback. The depth isn't there to be a playoff team. Receiver's not there to be a playoff team. And the unknown quality of Marcus Arroyo / Jim Mastro co-coordinators, they're going to be running they're switching the offense around pretty dramatically. I think the goal is to be, and I talked about this on our friends Wildcat Radio today, tempo Stanford out at the pistol with spread elements. Does that mean anything to you, or those are just words?
A little bit of both, Dan, to be honest.
Yeah. So there is a giant question mark about what this offense actually is and is trying to do. So that to me is why 10 wins means you've got your act together.
You weren't
everywhere.
You weren't jumping through hoops when they hired Mario Cristobal. I think you saw it for what it was. You thought it made sense. It continued a lot of what Oregon was trying to put in place. But Mario Cristobal was a guy, when he was a head football coach at FIU, we were doing the podcast at the time. He got a lot out of that team. And those were exciting football teams too. I remember watching T.Y. Hilton. You remember T.Y. Hilton?
Of course.
Does Oregon have a T.Y. Hilton this year? Are they going to have a go-to playmaker that isn't Justin Herbert?
On offense, as like an all-purpose weapon, unclear. I mean, Dylan Mitchell is a receiver. He's not like a slot guy necessarily, and he came on strong late last year. Tabari Hines was Wake Forest in the claw offense. He was their leading receiver. They get healthier at tight end, but there's nobody that's game-breaking. If it's anybody, it's probably Dylan Mitchell, with a slight chance of Johnny Johnson. But those feel like B+ guys right now.
I feel 9 wins. 9 wins feels about right to me.
I'm going to say 9 wins with losses to Washington, Arizona, and Utah.
Maybe a talk to your friends about Oregon kind of year.
But that would mean they'd beat Stanford, they'd beat UCLA, they'd beat Wazoo on the road. They beat Arizona State at home. That's a pretty successful year. But yes, 9-3 with, if they get injury luck, both staying healthy and other teams losing crucial players, sure, there's 10-2 flirtation.
10-2 flirtation.
Yeah.
With that being said, Dan, if you've been flirting, if you've been playing footsies with the Athletic,
just want to pull that trigger, Ty, but you're nervous.
If you've been on the fence, we are offering a great deal now. We've been offering it for a couple weeks. The deal won't last forever, mind you.
No.
40% off your first year subscription. It comes to $2.99 a month. You can get access to The Athletic, which is, of course, a subscription-based publisher of smarter sports coverage. For diehard sports fans, there are no ads, no pop-ups, no autoplay videos. You can really get in-depth, high-quality coverage from people that you know and love, people we've had on the podcast.
Yeah.
For 40% off. All you got to do is go to theathletic.com/solidverbal. Sign up through that URL. You will not only help us out, but you're going to get yourself a low-cost way to get the in-depth kind of coverage you need to know more than your friends and stay fully up to date with what's going to go on this college football season in 2018.
It's all just clean and easy, Ty. Be a part of the future. And if you're an Oregon fan, we just previewed Oregon. Chantel Jennings is in Portland. She's a national writer, but covers Oregon super well. Tyson Alger is a beat writer for Oregon. He's on the job. And they have a strong West Coast presence just in general. Dan Uthman, who runs the college football, the All-American site, I believe is in Portland. Come on.
No East Coast bias here is what I'm hearing.
No. Pacific Northwest bias. It's very real. It's very small, but it's very real. Theathletic.com/solidverbal. It's one of those things where you've been waiting to pull the trigger. You've wanted a reason. Let that reason be Dan and Ty convincing you, helping out the show. And once you do it, we're telling you, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner.
Theathletic.com/solidverbal. Check it out.
The future.
Where do you want to go next, Dan?
Let's talk about the Bauer Hour.
The Bauer Hour.
Let's talk about your enthusiasm.
Cal went 5-7 a year ago. But this year, they have 10 guys back on offense and 8 on defense.
They do.
This year, the road schedule isn't terrible. Okay? Now, keep this in mind. I say that, but when we start talking about a team like Cal, it's not so much a question of whether or not the talent will perform on the road. This is a question we ask about teams that I think are more known quantities that we expect more from. We can ask that question about Washington or about Stanford or Auburn or Alabama, Georgia. Teams that we know what we're going to get. Will that team perform on the road? For Cal, it's really a question across the board about whether or not the talent is elite enough to win.
Elite.
Period.
Elite.
All right. Is Cal elite? Perhaps is a question we can ask ourselves in spots about the Cal Golden Bears. I suspect I know the answer, and the answer is no.
I promise you, every week that we preview games this year, I am going to check in. Is Cal elite?
I hope you do.
I'm going to.
Continue. We know the answer to the question.
Is Cal elite?
The answer is no.
In August.
Where I'm going with this, though, is that Justin Wilcox is elite at getting the most out of his guys. So even if he doesn't have high-end talent, you're going to see a lot of pluckiness out there. A lot of pluckiness out there. These guys are playing hard. The Bauer Hour will be fun to watch with Ross Bowers starting quarterback. I think realistically we're talking 6-6, 7-5, but it would not surprise me to see 8. I like this Cal team because I think they're going to play hard. I think the returning talent will be something that Justin Wilcox is going to use as a springboard to improve upon his 5 wins from a year ago.
So it's difficult for me to get fully on board with the team that went 2-7 in the Pac-12 last year.
Fair point. Very fair point.
They lose 7 of their last 9. And they were competitive. I will say that. They were competitive. They lose in double overtime to Arizona. They lose by a field goal in a very strange game to Stanford. They lose by a field goal to UCLA. So they were competitive, and I think that shows a lot to your use of the word plucky, which makes me a little uncomfortable, but I'm okay with it. When I look at what they have right now, I am not sold on Ross Bowers, and I'm not necessarily sold on Brandon McElwain, who is pushing him, the South Carolina transfer. But I love their coordinators. I love Bo Baldwin. I love Tim DeRuyter. Their pass defense, it's very tough not to, when you see things crumbling around you, when the offense is taking a step back, to not sort of let your guard down. I like that they played hard all year long. I like that their non-conference schedule is pretty good this year. They go to North Carolina, which was just dealt a blow like 8.5 hours after we did our ACC Coastal preview with 13 players getting suspended for selling Jordans. They have Oregon after Oregon Stanford, and that's at Cal. So there's a big body blow situation there. They have Arizona after Arizona USC. They have Washington at Cal before Washington Stanford. So that's a look ahead situation. And they go to USC a week before the rivalry game against UCLA that USC has. So situationally, Cal's in a pretty good space. Their corners are really, really good. There are defensive pieces that are really, really good. I like them at linebacker. The big thing to me is, in looking at them big picture and how they perform, and I think this is a product of the coordinator situation, I was talking to our pal Yogi Roth, and he keeps track of something unique in the way that, like, Bruce introduced us to his body blow theory, which may or may not mathematically check out, but it's just a theory. And Yogi, while the games are going on, he calls games for the Pac-12 network. Hopefully, look it up. It might be on your local cable package. He keeps track of unforced errors.
Oh, like in tennis.
So that's penalties, drops, miscommunications where, like, a quarterback throws the ball downfield and nobody's there because the receiver ran a different route than the quarterback was
This
expecting.
Isn't just like on the fly. This is something that he actively keeps track of.
He keeps track of it during games that he's calling, and then when he's watching games, he marks things down that are just dumb mistakes.
Okay.
And he said the 2 teams that outpaced pretty much everybody last year were Cal and Washington. And it's a mark of focus from players and good teaching from coaches.
Interesting.
And Cal is one of those teams that, despite going 5-7 last year, despite losing, going 2-7 in the Pac-12, that all of their mistakes were based, or all of their troubles, or most of their troubles, were as a result of teams just being better than Cal.
Okay.
But I think Justin Wilcox is going to continue recruiting well enough. They lose Demetrius Robertson this offseason, their 5-star wide receiver going back to Georgia. I think there are too many questions in terms of playmakers on offense and what they're going to look like up front on defense for them to really threaten the better teams on their schedule. But I think they can go to a bowl this year. I think they can win 6 games, 7 games, something like that.
I agree. Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I am buying incremental improvement with Cal, thanks to Yogi Roth's unforced error theory.
Washington State, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Washington State went 9-3. They got drilled by Michigan State in the Holiday Bowl. 10 starters back this year, which I believe makes them the least experienced team in the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
Alex Grinch, their mean defensive coordinator, went to Ohio State. And they bring in Tracy Claeys, former head football coach at Minnesota, to be their new defensive coordinator. Now, Tracy Claeys is actually, I think, a pretty good hire.
Same.
This is a guy who, despite the fact that his run as Minnesota coach had some ups and downs, he was a defensive coordinator for like 16 years before that head coaching stint.
Mm-hmm.
He runs a pretty good defense, and he's got a track record for being a very good defensive coordinator. You don't really worry about the offense with Mike Leach. They'll probably be just fine there, even though there are going to be a lot of new faces, and you mentioned the quarterback position. Defensively, that's where Wazoo made some pretty big strides under Alex Grinch. Now that he's gone, I am worried about what this means for Wazoo and for Mike Leach. Here is just sort of a quick glance at what improved under Alex Grinch.
Hit me.
We saw the speed defense last year. Remember the speed D, they called it?
Of course. Unpredictable.
In 2014, Wazoo was 117th in scoring defense.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, that improved to 74th. In 2016, up to 50th. Last year, hovered right around that 50 mark.
Mm-hmm.
That was so huge for Washington State. I think Tracy Claeys is a good hire. I think he plays a tough brand of defense. He's had defenses that were really stingy in the red zone in the past. But I think unless he can really continue what Alex Grinch had going, unless he can improve upon it in a big way, we're probably looking at a year where there are just too many questions for Washington State, where the schedule isn't terrific in that they play at USC, they're home against Oregon, at Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're probably looking at a step back year here.
I think this might be the end of the Mike Leach era. I believe, and I will disagree with you on one point, I am not at all in a place to count on a Mike Leach offense, whatever that means in 2018, being automatically pretty good, because they weren't last year. And they were dealing with injury at quarterback. This was a team led by its defense. And you said they got up to like 50th in scoring defense. Because of their offensive struggles, that rank, I think, misleads how good and dangerous that team was. It was probably a top 30 defense in the country. And just were on the field too much and put into precarious situations. This Washington State team was super fun on defense last year, led by Hercules Mataafa, an absolute dude. I don't care where he is in the world. He is an absolute dude. They finished, these are the analytics, mind you, 11th in points per drive on offense out of 12 teams, just ahead of Oregon State. They finished second in points per drive on defense allowed in the Pac-12, just behind Washington. So that encouraging about the defense, not so super encouraging about the offense. Now they go to probably a grad transfer, and Gardner Minshew comes over from ECU, who is brand new to this system. They lose their best running back. They lose their best 2 offensive linemen, including Cody O'Donnell, the mountain man, who Adam Amin called a dude on national TV.
Right.
And defensively, losing a couple of big pieces up front. I know they return a lot in the linebacking core, but the other thing they lose a lot of is coaches, Ty.
Yeah.
They lost like 8 assistants. I think this is a season in which there are just too many leaks to plug for Washington State. And I think everybody in Pullman is getting to the point eventually that we're like, Mike Leach may have worn out his welcome a little bit. And it's just, he has not a ceiling, but an expiration date. And I think we've gotten a little bit close to that in Pullman. And I think it's going to show this year. I think the bottom falls out. And I hope it doesn't. I hope Washington State's fun and gets to the point where they're competing for the division once again, like they were last year. But it's too many leaks.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I don't think they're making a bowl game.
No,
I think it's like a 4-8 year for Washington State.
I'm with you. And that brings us then to Oregon State.
Yeah.
Oregon State went 1-11. They've got a new coach, Jonathan Smith, who was the former Washington offensive coordinator. 15 starters back from a year ago, which, I don't know what that really means on a team that went 1-11, but it's something. And the only other point here, while there's never really a great schedule for a team that went 1-11, playing at Ohio State in week 1 is sort of cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah. Fair.
I guess they have to improve, maybe?
They will improve. They 100% will improve. They have Ohio State. That's going to be a nail biter as to if Ohio State...
As to the point spread, right.
Yeah. They're going to beat Southern Utah. There's a good shot of beating Nevada. Nevada's not in a great place right now. Arizona is going to be tough. Arizona State on the road is going to be tough. Wazoo, we'll see. That's at home. Colorado on the road. I'm not super happy about Colorado. They had the weird situation with Stanford last year, the weird close game. They closed with a pretty difficult November. USC, Stanford, Washington, Stanford and Washington on the road. And then the Civil War is at home in Corvallis. But that Colorado game on the road is after Colorado, Washington. The Washington State game is after Wazoo, Utah. They have Arizona a week after Arizona, USC. So if you're combing through the possibilities, I'm going to say Oregon State goes 3-9.
Okay.
I don't love much, but there is a sign. Well, I'm a big believer in signs. What is the first name of the probable starting quarterback if Connor Blunt, the freshman, does not win the job?
Is it Jake?
It is Jake,
yeah.
Ty. And to bring everything full circle, if you can't believe in a Jake, what can you believe? What can you believe in, Ty?
Pacific Northwest, Jake Forrest.
Pacific Northwest. The Jake Forest extends to central Western Oregon.
All right.
So 3-9. Oregon State will incrementally improve. They hired Wisconsin's outside linebackers coach, I believe, to run the defense. So the Oregon State, Wisconsin, Gary Anderson thread has stretched a little farther. It's going to be a tough year, but I would, if I were an Oregon State fan, I would hope for what Cal looked like near the end, even with this terrible schedule at the end for the Beavs. Just that they're showing fight, just that they look organized, just that they're playing disciplined football, and go 3-9, and then hope for good enough recruiting year over year that they become a bowl threat. That to me is a huge success. It's going to be a journey, Ty. You got to get some snacks if you're on this road for Oregon State. It's going to be a little bit.
All righty, there you go. That is your Pac-12 North. I'm gonna go 2-10.
Okay,
but a better 2-10.
Still winning more than one.
A better 2-10. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Quickly.
Yes.
The Mountain West Mountain Division.
Talk to me.
Is probably the more fun division.
Yes.
Of the two divisions in the Mountain West. And I do like San Diego State. But Boise State's going to be great. Should be the best group of 5 team.
Yep.
Brett Rippon back once again. Madison Avenue. I forget what you wanted to call that for Alexander Madison. Should be a very good running back. Their defense, even without Leighton Vander Esch, should be lights out. This is nothing new. This is nothing exciting.
I think I wanted to go Mad Dog or something.
Oh, Mad Dog. Yeah. The other thing is, we mentioned KJ Carter-Samuels on our, I believe, SEC show.
Yep.
I want to say Arkansas has Colorado State. Colorado State will be starting KJ Carter-Samuels, the Washington transfer. And the Rams don't have much of a defense, so shootout city for Colorado State. New Mexico's going away from the option because Georgia Southern hired their coordinator, and they're going with Calvin McGee, who has been at Arizona, so they're going to be running sort of spreadish stuff that they've kind of succeeded with recently. Wyoming, because you're hearing a lot of offense talk, Wyoming has a great defense, and they return basically all of it. Carl Granderson, super fun. Their safeties are great. Wyoming could have a year in which whoever starts at quarterback, because I do not have his name in front of me, whoever ends up starting at quarterback, if he succeeds, people are going to suddenly say things like, guess Josh Allen was not as big of a deal as we perhaps thought.
Are you talking about Tyler Vanderwall?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Wyoming's defense. They play teams tough, and I like their coach. His head looks like the inside of the Oregon O.
Yeah.
The Mountain West Mountain will be pretty good. Utah State, there's not a ton there that I love. New Mexico, we mentioned. Air Force, if they're going to succeed, if they're going to be a team that threatens 8 or 9 wins, they need to be able to complete 60% of their passes. And it's, like Troy Calhoun, I don't see this team having the offense to get to that point because defensively they're nowhere near it.
All right.
That's it. Until we talk about Conference USA. Yes.
The best for last.
Indeed.
So, okay. Is Washington going to go to the playoff?
They're the best team in the Pac-12, but I don't think they're going to the playoff.
Okay.
I think unless they go undefeated or lose, if they lose to Auburn 30-27, 17-14 in over, something crazy and close and impressive, and then just smoke the rest of their schedule, go finish out 11-0, probably to the playoff. But short of something like that, it's tough for me to see them going at 10-2.
Well, right on in at solidverbal@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And let us know your thoughts on the coming season. We are working up to a show at some point here before we actually start previewing week 1 games, where I suppose Dan and I are going to have to give some level of predictions for the upcoming playoffs. Yeah, we're going to have to do it. We don't like to, but we're going to have to.
Why?
We're going to have to do it.
Let's just give our top 4 about everything else.
The fans demand it, Dan. We're going to have to do it.
Okay. I just see it that we got a tweet about who our 4 playoff teams are.
Yeah.
People love 4 playoff teams.
So we'll talk about that at some point in the future. But we got a couple shows here now coming up that I think people are going to be very excited about. We got the Fantasy Things show, which is going to drop here in the coming days. We're also doing our best to bring in a Q&A episode before the start of the year.
Yep.
And then, before you know it, we'll be at a point in time where it's time to actually start looking at week 1 games.
Hell,
previewing.
Dan, Ty, picks of the week, that kind of thing.
People have
Did we give Pac-12 North dudes?
I don't know.
Can we just have a dude off with the Pac-12 North?
Let's do it.
All right. Pick a dude. You can start. I give you first dude.
My dude, Dan, just because I feel guilty about the fact that maybe I panned over him. Let's do Bryce Love. What the hell?
Whoa.
An obvious one, but
I'm going double defense dude. Triple D. First one, Taylor Rapp, safety for Washington.
Okay.
Unbelievable nose for the ball. Couldn't keep him off the field as a freshman. Second one, Jalen Jelks on the defensive line for Oregon.
Yeah.
Double defensive dude. That's all I got.
All right. It's fun stuff. For those people who have written in asking about the upcoming pick'em pool, stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
Stay tuned. We'll have info.
Can I give Dan's tech tip of the day?
Please.
Ty, you ever get down on your computer? You get down to like 4 gigs left. And your computer's like, ooh, you run out of space. You want to make room? Or you want to just close this window? And I'll go in and I'll say, I'm gonna make some room. I'm gonna delete like the GarageBand loops. That'll open up some space. I'm gonna delete my wedding video. I didn't do that.
Okay.
I did not do that. But like they organize things for you.
Right.
And it just kept happening. And it was like, oh, you only got 3 gigs left. You only got 6 gigs left. And I turned to you because you're a tech guy.
Bit of a tech guy, yeah.
And then at one point today, I just restarted my computer. And I was like, maybe this will help. It went from like 3 gigs to 40 gigs. So I'm going to take the advice that I give to my middle-aged to old parents. And I learned something very valuable today, Ty. Restart your computer every once in a while. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't know about
cheated.
37 gigabytes worth of
37 gigs.
free space coming as part of that restart, but sure.
I did not sing that. I also learned not to drink water like within 2 hours of going to bed this week. Who knew?
Well, Daniel, this has been fun. Thank you for imparting some of your Pac-12 North wisdom upon us.
This is mostly for like our 68-year-old listeners. the end of the show tips.
All right. Well, for that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrandt, thanks for bearing with us here as we went through all of the conferences, all the Power 5 conferences. Still got one to go, of course, but thank you for listening with us, for sending in your comments, your suggestions. We are very excited for the season ahead, and there's going to be a lot of fun content coming your way. We will continue dropping shows every Wednesday and Sunday. But until our next show, stay solid.
Peace.